Hi, everyone. Welcome to Waste 360's Nothing Wasted podcast. On every episode, we invite the most interesting people in waste, recycling, and organics to sit down with us and chat candidly about their thoughts, their work, this unique industry, and so much more. So thanks for listening and enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure that you all know that Waste Expo Together Online registration is open. You can go to wasteexpo.com to register and check out who's speaking and the amazing content we have lined up for you guys. We're super excited and know you will be too. Hi, everyone. This is Liz Bothwell from Waste 360 with Erin Wallace, Vice President of Integrated Marketing at thredUP. Welcome, Erin, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So we usually start in the beginning, so I'd love to hear about your background and how you found thredUP and your passion for sustainability.
Sure. Yeah. So my story ultimately really starts, kind of back in the 90s, where I was a really diehard thrifter, just because I liked being able to find unique, one-of-a-kind items and really express my personal style that way on a budget that a college student could afford. So, after college, I landed a job at Crossroads Trading Company. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're a brick and mortar national resale chain. But, when I started, they were still fairly small, and I started as a writer. And I liked working for the company because the business model made sense to me, although it was quite, a little bit outsidery still at that point. But I stayed there for years. It was a wonderful company, and kind of grew into a lot of different roles there and developed their training programs and grew their stores, and eventually was the head of marketing and communications for the company. And so I've essentially spent my entire career in resale. And so when I came to thredUP, I was really just looking to step onto a larger framework where I could work at a larger company, quite frankly, and have even more impact in the area of sustainability and secondhand, and really move towards the goal of bringing secondhand, honestly, to the world, to really scale it up. And thredUP provided that opportunity. So I started about 2.5, almost 3 years ago as the brand director. And now am overseeing integrated marketing, which includes brand and creative campaigns, emails, things like that.
Oh, that's great. And I'm sure living in the world of the pandemic, it has had to affect your work. Can you talk a little bit about how it has impacted what you're doing?
Yeah, well, it's like how it's impacted the business has been probably no surprise to you. As we all know, sitting around at home, people have been cleaning out their homes and tidying up. And so the demand for our clean out kits went through the roof. And it was already a very popular service. And when I say clean out kits, I mean for people going online, going to thredUP, ordering a clean out kit, we send it to their home, they fill it up, leave it for their mail carrier, and we cover the shipping, and the items are sent to our distribution centers to be processed and resold. So a pretty convenient service where you don't have to go anywhere right now was very, very popular. So that was huge for us. But then in terms of just like how we were handling it, on a corporate level, we actually already work from home 2 days a week, which is pretty unusual for a company. So we're really used to that. So it was probably a little bit less of a transition for us than it was for a lot of companies. That said, we're really tight teams, and it's really hard not to be around everyone, but we're doing pretty well.
Oh, that's great. And nice that you already were working from home, so it really wasn't that stark of a transition for everyone.
Yeah, it's a really cool part of the culture of thredUP, which is we call them Maker Days, and our CEO James actually implemented this. Way back there was one Maker Day, and now there's 2 Maker Days, and the idea is that everyone at thredUP, we're still a startup and we work really hard, but the idea is that on Maker Days you should have the ability to have no meetings or very few meetings, and kind of work wherever you feel most productive and be able to have time to take your kids to school or have lunch with your partner or go for a run, whatever it is that kind of gives you a little bit more balance in your life. So that was kind of a core value from the beginning. So it just happened to be, already part of our culture to be very independently driven to deliver the results you need without, kind of need to be in the office or expectation to be in the office.
Oh, I love that. And how amazing that it's fostered from the top. So it really is part of your culture. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we all know with company cultures, it's like it really does have to come from the top for it to be real and believed. So yeah, it's just a cornerstone of how we work.
Sounds amazing.
Very, very convenient right now. really
exactly.
Very prescient on James's.
Little did he know, or maybe he knows more than we think.
I know. What's next, James? If only we knew. Yeah.
Right. So are you able to talk at all about pre-COVID and post, well, not post-COVID quite yet, but during COVID numbers for resale in general? I mean, I believe the numbers were going up pre-COVID anyway. It seemed what I was reading about interest in secondhand and things like that. But do you have anything that you could quantify?
Yeah, I mean, I can. Numbers have been going up pretty crazily. I mean, I think that in part is just due to the lack of stigma around buying used clothing at this point. I think 80% of people no longer think there's a stigma associated with that, and really that's just due to the younger cohorts growing into purchasing age, and like they're born into a world where they're secondhand. So everyone is buying secondhand at this point. In terms of pre and during COVID, I don't think I can quantify, I can't give you numbers, but our clean out service, like I said, that demand went through the roof. And I think with the initial stages of COVID, when all retailers really saw a big hit, we had some dips that are mostly due to, processing and us needing to take the necessary precautions to make sure that every person who works in our distribution center, that we could operate safely. And so that naturally, as you see with all retailers, slows down, perhaps shipping times or processing times for our clean out kit. So that's really been the greatest barrier during COVID that we've experienced. But in terms of demand, that has remained very healthy.
Oh, I bet. And do you feel like it's pushed the sustainable fashion narrative into the limelight a bit more? It just seems like the importance of a transparent supply chain has never been more important.
Yeah, I do think it has. And it's, we've kind of got there in two different ways. It's almost like the sustainability story we were able to tell because we are not reliant, obviously, on, factories and overseas production for our supply. And therefore, we became one of the only games in town where you could go to, thredUP.com and constantly see new items. Whereas, most retailers, everything was pretty stalled and you're seeing the same things and they're not processing, and obviously brick and mortars were closed down. So we found, especially early on in shelter in place, that our session visits were really elevated, and people were spending a lot of time on our site on a daily basis. And, it kind of validated something that we already, it was more of a hunch, was that people come to thredUP as a form of entertainment because there's, millions of items listed, more than 2 million unique items listed and new items listed every day. So people really are always just coming back to see what surprising thing they might find. And so we were basically an entertainment source in early shelter in place. So, which, we really fully embraced, because even when people were feeling, I think financially very insecure, not knowing what was going to happen in early days, we just wanted to remain top of mind and be there for her when she did feel like shopping again. And then obviously if she's coming to us, she's, for possibly entertainment, we work really hard to tell our sustainability story and to educate people around why choosing secondhand is a better, more thoughtful choice for the planet in a way that's like fun, digestible, approachable, not a lecture. We're not here to lecture. We're just here to help people make better choices in like a really fun and affordable way.
Oh, that's great. And I mean, I'm sure that's what resonates with that generation too. And I'm sure you have a wide demographic, but from Gen Z all the way to on up, I would imagine that resonates. Now, how does social media play into this in telling your story, your sustainability story, in a way that's entertaining?
Our social media presence and is really key to being able to tell our sustainability story. And, I would say Instagram is probably a channel where we're really able to get into the nitty gritty, where our audience really loves hearing about like the real details of impact, the impact of choosing, secondhand over new. So, I mean, one of like the key statistics that I like to share, because it really does kind of like underline the impact of secondhand, is, if everyone in the U.S. bought just one item used instead of new, it would save around 6 billion pounds of carbon emissions. And one of the ways that we always tell a sustainability story is by creating an equivalency. So what is 6 billion pounds of carbon emissions? It's the equivalent of taking 500,000 cars off the road for an entire year. And so, that's amazing. That's a huge impact for such a small step that each individual can take. So we look at like cumulative impact, and we try and quantify that for people in ways that they can understand, that resonate with them. And that has been really successful for us in telling our sustainability narrative. And yeah, it often, and most of those larger campaigns that are telling those stories are launched on social media. So key for us. Oh, that's great. And I love how you quantify it that way. And you make it less overwhelming for people, because I think people look at the problem and say, how can I ever make an impact as one person? But if you put it in those types of terms and visually show them that, they can't help but to know that it will help and that they should go down that road. That's awesome. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, we're not here to lecture people, or make people feel bad. It's really so easy to do better, and it's more fun, quite frankly, to shop secondhand. There's just so many benefits to it. Having worked in this industry for so long, I'm probably a bit of a zealot just because I don't understand why anyone would do anything else. but it's such a win-win-win-win. It's like you save money, you get better clothing, it's good for the planet. It's just, it's hard not to shout it from the rooftops. But I guess that's why my job is what it is. But it's catching on too. So you're doing something right, and the educational part is huge. So now, really is there a brand that you admire that's doing this right? I mean, from the supply chain all the way to thinking about end of life? Oh yeah, I mean, and it is key that end of life starts to be. I think that is like kind of the future of where retailers need to go is actually completing that circle, because I think responsible and sustainable retailers, there are lots that are doing a good job, but they've always kind of focused on that supply chain and point of creation and the production cycle. But then it seems that relationship seems to end at the point of purchase, and then it becomes the consumer's problem, essentially, to deal with the end of life of clothing. And I think historically they haven't known what to do with it. They donate it. It ends up in the trash. 64% of the 32 billion garments produced end up in landfill. So it's really clearly not been addressed. So I think, there are really the brands at the forefront who are looking forward to where where do their clothes go even after purchase, and taking responsibility for that or providing solutions are really, to me, like cutting edge. And they're, the Patagonias of the world, or there's very small companies like 4 Days, which has a, closed loop t-shirt line in LA, but their model is really forward thinking. So, those are two off the top of my head, big guy and a little guy.
Oh, that's great. And a lot of our listeners they handle the end of life, right? We have a lot of haulers, recyclers, environmentalists. What do you think their role is in all of this?
In secondhand, or just in terms of?
In terms of fast fashion and kind of handling it when the consumers make it their problem, right? So is there anything they can do on their end?
That's an interesting question. I'm curious to hear, maybe asking you a question now, because our relationship with haulers or, third-party textile recyclers is when we receive items that we are unable to resell. And so, we have a group that we work with to try and redistribute those items domestically as much as possible to kind of avoid additionally shipping them to other countries. And that's our goal at thredUP. I would be curious from more of like the hauler's point of view, whether about the quantity of clothing that they're receiving and whether there is any addressable way to maintain all of the recycling efforts here domestically, and what needs to change in the production cycles in order for that to happen. In my experience and my understanding is simply that there are too many clothes being produced, and there's a major overproduction issue, and fashion waste is a very real thing. So haulers and clothing recyclers have a really tough job to do, which is just managing way more than is needed for the country, way more than for the country, but ultimately for the globe.
Absolutely. You're right on. And they are handling it, and they're trying to really look toward innovation to help. But even some of the innovation that has come forward, AI and robotics and things like that are helping on, the recycling side of things for contamination on cartons and things like that. It's very hard with textiles because it's really hard to determine wool versus cotton, and so
exactly.
those types of challenges, I think the industry is really paying attention to. But the sheer volume needs to be obviously addressed as well. So, even like you said, how your kits became so popular when people were cleaning out as well. Residential waste went up because people were in their homes, they were cooking more, they were cleaning more, and they were clearing out.
Yeah, I bet.
So, there was a rise in that as well, and I'm sure part of that was textiles. So it's a huge challenge, and a garbage truck filled with textiles hits a landfill every 2 minutes. So the industry is aware of it, and they're, chemical recycling is part of the issue, or could be part of the solution. There are so many things I think that they're considering, but as you know, education is a huge part of it. What's recyclable, what is not, what can you do to extend the life of your clothing and things like that. So it's a lot of similar struggles that you're talking about, for sure, by the time it reaches everybody on our end.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is I don't think it's on like your industry to solve the problem. I mean, it's not, I don't think in my mind the responsible solution is for us to simply figure out how to better recycle as much as we want to produce. I think there's a responsibility on the production side to slow down the production and actually produce to the addressable needs, not just to sky's the limit. So, it needs to happen at every step of the way, production. And then, at thredUP, we need to educate, we need to extend the life of garments as much as possible, as well as, provide a lot of education. And then on the recycling end, we definitely need more innovation around recycling. It's, it's for textiles, obviously, it is really tricky, and there's lots of innovation, but to scale it up to the level where it needs to be to make an impact, I think, from my understanding, is still quite a ways off.
Yes, definitely. But what you're doing is helping, and so any sort of progress is amazing.
We're trying.
So I saw thredUP's fashion footprint calculator. It's very cool. Can you tell our listeners about that?
Sure. So our fashion footprint calculator is really fun, and it actually was born from this survey that we did, and we found out that most people are concerned about sustainability, but they were unaware and they wanted to do better. They wanted to help, but they did not understand how their choices relating to how they shop, care for, and wear their clothing are connected to sustainability, that those two things are aligned, the decisions are aligned. So we decided to create this calculator where you could simply answer in a really visually impactful, fun, quick calculator, less than 5 minutes, answer some questions, and then see what your decision making, the choices that you make, how they're impacting your closet, give you kind of your footprint, your fashion footprint score, and how that relates to other people. And then as well as providing kind of a rundown of all of the impact that each decision you make, the level of impact it has on the environment. And of course, it also provided tips for how to improve, as well as kind of a directory of sustainable brands and discounts to shop there and fun things like that. So it was super duper popular. We were really surprised by how widely it was taken and continues to be taken. So we find that very encouraging, that people really are just curious about how what they do is impacting the planet. And again, kind of going back to that mission of making it simple, the tips are simple. It's wash something in cold or hang it to dry. Those are, and just understanding do you need to dry clean that? Here's the trade-off. So items like that.
Oh, that's so fun. And again, back to your education, making it fun and informative and engaging. I think that's awesome.
Yep, it was a good one.
So I also read about thredUP's Resell as a Service platform. Can you talk about that?
Our Resell as a Service platform has been really exciting. We've been partnering with retailers from Walmart to Gap to help them participate in circular fashion. And essentially, we have a few partnership models. We have Apparel Recycling, which means that customers can literally clean out their closets with thredUP in exchange for receiving brand shopping credit. So that is if you order something from the Gap and you receive it and there's a thredUP cleanout kit inside, you fill up the bag with stuff that you no longer want or need. It gets sent to thredUP, we process it, and we pay you in Gap credit. So it's kind of a win-win for both sides. We also provide straight up secondhand shopping. So we have custom secondhand product assortments. So that example is on Walmart.com, where we have, I think, upwards of 750,000 secondhand items that are listed on their site. So that is a really cool partnership, because Walmart is introducing secondhand clothing into their shopping experience. They're a massive retailer, and all of those customers are learning about secondhand. So we think that's really encouraging and love that partnership. And then also we have, an excess inventory partnership kind of model that obviously helps thredUP. thredUP helps brands turn unused inventory into additional revenue. So as we know, returns are not resellable in a traditional retail model, whereas on thredUP, since everything's secondhand, our returns are, already more sustainable because we can relist them, but we can also do that for other brands.
That's great. Oh my goodness, what good partnerships.
It's been really an exciting year for partnerships. It's been great. It's been great to see the adoption and kind of welcoming of secondhand and thrift into traditional retail models. And I do think as we move into a more sustainable fashion future, I hope that is really what needs to happen, is for traditional retailers to embrace secondhand, extending the life of garments, the end of life, and so partnerships are a key way for us to get there.
Definitely. Yes. I'm sure we will see that grow for you.
I think so.
And you've talked a little bit about what you hope for the future of fashion, but if you could reimagine it, what would it look like?
Yes, the future of fashion in a perfect world would involve far less clothing being produced. The clothing that is produced thoughtfully and ethically, with as minimal impact to our environment and sustainability as possible, as well as obviously providing safe and ethical fair wage jobs to their employees, garments that are designed to last and made from recyclable fabrics. And then obviously that those garments are the actual norm and expectation is for those garments to be worn and resold and worn again until there really is no re-wearable option, at which point there are responsible and easily available ways for clothing to reach recyclers. And the circle is complete.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
We've got some work to do.
Yeah, we have work to do, but I think we'll get there. And
I think
what's interesting with just where fast fashion is and what we talked about in terms of it being really it's at the tipping point of interest, right? Do you think most of the bigger brands are beyond greenwashing? And the reason I asked that is I watched a masterclass with Anna Winter, and I mean, even she has pushed the boundaries on sustainable fashion now, to the point where it actually feels like real action and not just talk. Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm. I do. I actually think that COVID and its effect on the traditional fashion industry may help hasten that trend line in the way that COVID has hastened a lot of trend lines in, e-commerce and shopping, in the sense that the interruption to the production cycles has really shined a light on the overproduction issue. And then, things like the reliance on the fashion weeks and in-person events and brick and mortar stores has really, I think, shifted a lot of the perspective onto should the fashion world be more direct to consumer, which they've had to kind of do to survive right now. It's really shifting to e-commerce and direct to consumer where you really can kind of produce more to demand. There's been a lot more conversation around it in the fashion industry in a way that I haven't heard before. So, I can't predict the future, obviously, but I think those who survive will most likely be trying to shift some of the emphasis more into their digital world, and considering the effect of reliance on such heavy production. It's kind of driven by, department store orders and vendors and buyer orders, and whether that cycle will return to the way it was or whether there will be significant changes.
So true. And so any advice you have? You talked about a little bit about it when you were talking about the calculator, but for individuals so they can clean up their own closets and think more sustainably?
Yeah, I think my advice is it's not complicated, really, is one, when you're purchasing something, if you're buying a new item and it seems incredibly cheap, wonder why it's so inexpensive. That's always, kind of a guideline, is if it's too good to be true on a new item, there's probably a cost somewhere. And that item can be purchased secondhand without that item can be purchased secondhand without contributing to the production problem. So it's really just replace, especially those fast fashion purchases, try and avoid, and check secondhand first. And that's pretty much it. That's doing your part, or at least a little bit of your part.
Definitely. Oh, that's great advice. So what's next for thredUP?
Oh, wow. We've got a lot of things cooking, but right now we are really just trying to keep up with demand and make sure that we have the most amazing, freshest inventory and the most surprising things. We love to delight our customers. Right now we are finishing a month of playing bingo. We do thredUP bingo every year that our customers go crazy for, with just like tons of promotions and games and, really just trying to be like an entertaining, fun way to shop, while we also, of course, continue to share our message about the importance of buying secondhand, the actual very real problem of fashion waste, and helping people keep money in their pocket. So that's enough for us these days.
Definitely. Oh, but again, back to the fun. It sounds like such a great culture. You're doing so much good, and you're really making secondhand cool. And I love that this new generation has just embraced it. And I think that's so inspiring. So thank you for what you're doing. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
It really was. It was so insightful. I'm going to check out the calculator and
yes, please do. I bet you're pretty good.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. This has been awesome, and good luck with everything, and stay well.
Thanks, Liz. This is great. Be well.
Okay. Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.